When Kathy walked into her office at Blue Springs Lab, she had an email from the lab manager. It read, "Will you join me and some of the research people for lunch today?" The Blue Springs Lab had a VIP lounge, and they would at times have lunch catered. Kathy's invitation would be one of those times. She had an indication the research people wanted to pick her brain about 1959, especially the recovery of the gold coins that, due to the rarity of the dates and the increase of the price of gold, they were now worth millions. Kathy did not have any information about the legal aspects of her find, but she wondered, after 60 years, would the owners, and probably in this case the descendants of the owners, be located? Kathy was thinking that the thing that was so ironic about the gold coins, they were not transported to 2019, they were just waiting to be found. When Kathy walked into the VIP lounge, it was packed with Blue Springs Lab executives. They all stood and began to give Kathy a standing ovation. When she sat down, the CEO began to bring everyone up to date on a job well done by Kathy. After the luncheon, people came up to Kathy asking all kinds of questions. Some wanted to know if she was romantically involved with anyone in 1959. Kathy would smile at this question and say, "That's for me to know and for you to find out." When she said this, everyone who heard it would laugh. The people gathered in the VIP lounge were not surprised Kathy was traveling to and from 2 time frames. They all had worked many years on this project, and the success of it had made some of the amazement wear off. To most of those gathered in the room, time travel was becoming as normal as some other amazing experiments and processes the lab had developed. The CEO told Kathy he wanted to see her after the others had gone back to their workstations. Kathy knew what the CEO wanted to talk about because she had placed a request with the lab to get permission to bring someone back to 2019 with her. When Kathy sat down in front of the CEO's desk, he did not hesitate to tell Kathy they did not know who she wanted to bring back with her, but he reminded her about the warning they gave her about getting romantically involved with someone in 1959. As it was now, they could not grant her permission to bring anyone back. Kathy wanted to know if that was final or if there was a way they could grant her request. Kathy did not know about the concerns the research people had in doing this. The CEO told her some of the researchers were worried that bringing someone from 1959 would not work. All the research had been created to send someone from 2019 to 1959 and bring them back. Bringing someone from the 1959 time frame that had never been transported from 2019 was believed a dangerous undertaking. They did not want to be responsible for the destruction of an individual. He told Kathy they were working on this problem, and if they could work it out to their satisfaction, they would give her permission to bring someone back with her. But until she was given permission, she needed to be extremely careful about getting romantically involved with a 1959 person. One thing you should not do is have another life with you when you come back. Kathy had not thought about that, and she knew she would need to tell James this. After Kathy departed the chief operating officer's office, she wanted to go to the location of James' apartment on the Blue Springs Holler Road to see if it was still standing in 2019. As she turned on the Blue Springs Holler Road, she was wondering what she would do if something was standing in that location other than the house and garage. When she saw the old dilapidated house and garage, it was a surreal feeling. The roof of the house had caved in, and the garage looked like someone had ripped the metal roof off. The side of the garage where James parked his station wagon was grown up with weeds. Kathy pulled up into the eroded driveway and parked beside the stairs that led up to what once was an apartment. The rungs of the stairway looked to be rotten wood, and some of the rungs were missing. She got out of the Volkswagen and walked around to the side of the garage to see if she could pull the Volkswagen into a space that would be beside the station wagon. When Kathy pulled the weeds away, she could see the faint imprint where an automobile had worn out of place. She determined she could pull her Volkswagen to the side of those ruts and would need to take a chance that nothing was parked in that spot when she came back to 1959. Kathy decided to go to an all-night drive-in movie as she waited for 3 a.m. The drive-in featured old movies, and the 1954 hit Seven Brides for Seven Brothers was the feature. She was thinking James had probably seen this movie, and that would be one of the first things she would ask him when she came to him at 3 a.m. in the morning. Kathy made sure no automobiles were in the vicinity when she pulled in the rutty driveway of the dilapidated house. She slowly drove the Volkswagen into the weeds, pushing them down and stopping beside the location where the station wagon would be parked. When she turned off her lights, and after sitting in the spot for several minutes, until she was satisfied no one was around to watch as she pressed the activation button that was marked Transferred Backwards. When she did this, the years passed by each second. She could always get a second of a glimpse as the years clicked by. James' station wagon came into view, and she glanced at the apartment window, and James was looking down as she appeared. She was glad to see him and could not wait to come up the outside stairs and enter the apartment. She and James embraced each other and just stood in that embrace for a long time, never wanting to let time separate them again. Kathy explained to James about the lab people worrying about bringing someone back until they were positive nothing disastrous would happen to the 1959 person. James told Kathy if they could not work that out, she could come and go if she remained a part of the Blue Springs lab experience. Kathy told James it would be dangerous if she came back with a life, and they needed to make sure that did not happen. The lab people are trying to come up with an answer to the problem of transporting life to 2019 from 1959. Kathy told James she could, with a simple Google search, find out if James came back or not. I do not want to learn of a death record with your name on it, James. At this point, Kathy continued to hug James, and they both had tears in their eyes. James told Kathy, regardless of what the lab people determined, they needed to get married. Getting legal papers and a license would be impossible for you to get because you have no proof you exist. Georgia is considered the Bible Belt, and I know dozens of ordained preachers that will marry us without any legalities. Kathy said that is exactly what they needed to do, and the sooner the better. James said the first thing they needed to do was introduce you to the old man and his wife that I am renting this apartment from. After meeting you, he will think this ghost stuff was just people's imagination running away with them. Kathy thought that was a good idea, and they could ask them to be a witness to their wedding. That also will help stop all this ghost stuff, especially when the locals learn that someone living in the area married the albino girl that thought was a ghost, or they thought was a ghost. The old man and woman attended an independent Baptist church on the other side of the Blue Springs River, and they would be glad to ask the preacher to marry Kathy and James. Kathy asked the old man if the church was in the big open space across the river. When he said yes, James smiled at Kathy, knowing that was the 2019 location of the Blue Springs Lab.